Two people live in the same neighborhood. One earns $95,000 a year and is two paychecks away from financial disaster. The other earns just $52,000, but has 18 months of savings and invests 20% of every paycheck. Same city, same rent. So what explains the difference? It's not intelligence. It's not luck. It's something most people never think about, the hidden cost of owning stuff. In this video, I'm going to show you the 10 minimalist money rules that separate people who always have money from people who never seem to keep it, no matter how much they earn. And once you understand rule number 1, you may never look at spending the same way again. Part 1. The apartment story that explains money. Imagine two apartments, same city, same neighborhood, almost the same rent. The first apartment belongs to someone earning $95,000 a year. Inside, everything looks impressive. A 75-inch TV on the wall, a $4,000 leather couch, a kitchen full of appliances, many still in the box. The closet is packed with clothes. Some still have the tags on them. There's even a spare bedroom. But it's not really a bedroom anymore. It's storage for things that haven't been used in years. Yet every time this person checks their bank account, they feel stress. They are two missed paychecks away from a crisis. Now look at the second apartment. The person living here earns $52,000 a year, almost half the income. But when you walk inside, you notice something different. There's space, a modest couch, a normal TV, a kitchen with tools that actually get used. The closet contains clothes that are worn regularly, and the spare bedroom is actually a bedroom. Nothing excessive, nothing overflowing. But when this person checks their bank account, they feel calm because they have 18 months of expenses saved, and they invest 20% of every paycheck. Same neighborhood. Yet the person earning half as much has far more financial security. This story isn't about income. It's about understanding something most people miss, the relationship between stuff and money. The first person slowly built a lifestyle that requires every dollar they earn just to maintain it. The second person discovered something powerful. Owning less doesn't mean living worse. It means living intentionally. And intentional living creates something many high earners never experience. Financial breathing room. In this video, we'll go through the minimalist money rules that help some people always have money, while others never seem to keep it. And the first idea will completely change how you look at every purchase. Because the truth is simple, everything you own costs money twice. Part 2. Everything you own costs money. Twice. Let's start with a concept that completely changes how you look at spending. Most people think an item costs money once. You see the price tag, you pay for it. End of story. But in reality, everything you own costs money twice. The first cost is obvious, it's the purchase price, the number on the receipt. But the second cost is the one most people never calculate, and often it's larger than the first cost. The second cost includes things like storage. Every object you own takes up space, and space isn't free. In many cities, housing space costs roughly $30 to $50 per square foot per year. Now think about something like a treadmill. A treadmill usually takes about 20 square feet when you include the clearance space around it. That means you might be paying $600 to $1,000 per year just to store that machine in your home. And if you're honest, most treadmills eventually become very expensive clothes hangers. Then there's maintenance. Take something like a boat. Owning a boat doesn't just mean buying it. You also pay for insurance, cleaning, registration, repairs, winter storage. Industry estimates say boat maintenance costs about 10% of the boat's value every year. So a $30,000 boat could easily cost $3,000 per year just to own, even if you barely use it. There's another hidden cost people rarely consider: mental energy. Every object you own takes up a tiny piece of your attention. It has to be cleaned, organized, maintained, stored, or eventually thrown away. Researchers have even found that visual clutter increases stress levels and reduces your brain's ability to focus. In other words, your stuff might literally be stressing you out. And finally, there's the biggest hidden cost of all: opportunity cost. Every dollar locked inside possessions is a dollar not invested. Imagine spending $15,000 on home gym equipment. If that same $15,000 were invested in index funds growing at around 7% annually, in about 15 years it could grow to $50,000 or more. You didn't just buy gym equipment, you bought gym equipment instead of future financial freedom. When you start adding these costs together, many possessions actually cost more to own than they cost to buy. The purchase price is just the entry fee. The real costs continue for as long as you keep the item. Minimalists understand this instinctively. They don't avoid buying things because they hate nice stuff. They avoid buying things because they've calculated the true cost. And often, it simply isn't worth it. And that leads directly to the first minimalist money rule, a rule that instantly stops most bad purchases before they happen. Part 3. Rule 1. Always calculate cost. Per use, minimalists follow a simple rule before buying anything. Calculate the cost per use. Instead of asking, "Can I afford this?" they ask, "How many times will I actually use it?" Then they divide the total price by that number. This reveals the true value of the purchase. For example, a $200 jacket worn only twice costs $100 per wear, but a $400 jacket worn 200 times costs only $2 per wear. In reality, the more expensive jacket becomes the better financial decision. This calculation instantly destroys most impulse purchases. That $300 kitchen gadget you'll realistically use twice a year, that's $150 per use in the first year. An incredibly expensive way to do a task you probably don't need that often. Meanwhile, a $30 tool used every week costs less than 60 cents per use. Suddenly, the math becomes obvious. The same rule also reveals when expensive items are actually good investments. Take something like a mattress. If you buy a $2,000 mattress and use it every night for 10 years, that's about 55 cents per night. For something that affects your sleep, health, and energy every single day, that's actually excellent value. Or consider a $1,500 espresso machine used daily for 5 years. That's less than $1 per use, and it may even save money compared to buying coffee every morning. Cost per use cuts through marketing, emotion, and social pressure. It forces you to see purchases clearly, not as objects, but as long-term financial decisions. And once you start thinking this way, something interesting happens. Many purchases that once felt exciting suddenly feel ridiculous. But minimalists go even further than that. They don't just question new purchases, they also question everything they already own. And that leads to the next rule. Part 4. Rule 2. The replacement test. Minimalists use a powerful question to evaluate everything they own. It's called the replacement test. The rule is simple. Walk through your home and look at the things you own. Then ask yourself one honest question. If this item disappeared today, would I buy it again? Be completely honest. Would you actually replace that bread maker sitting in the cabinet? Would you buy another fondue set? Would you repurchase clothes you haven't worn in over a year? For most people, the answer is no. Many items stay in our homes for only one reason. Inertia. They were impulse purchases. Gifts we felt guilty throwing away, or leftovers from hobbies we no longer enjoy, but these items still cost you something. They take up space, they require cleaning and organizing, and they quietly occupy mental attention. Minimalists call these things negative value items. They cost you energy but provide no real benefit. That's why minimalists remove them quickly. Items with value can be sold. Items someone else could use can be donated, and the rest can simply be discarded. At first, this process feels uncomfortable, but once it's done, most people feel something unexpected. Relief. Rooms feel larger. Cleaning becomes easier. You know where everything is, and your home starts to feel calmer. But minimalists don't stop there. They also avoid one of the most common financial traps, upgrading things that already work perfectly. And that leads to the next rule. Part 5. Rule 3. Never upgrade. Out of boredom. One of the biggest financial traps today is upgrade culture. You see it everywhere. Your phone works perfectly, but a new model just came out. Your TV still functions, but the new version has slightly better resolution. Your car runs fine, but the latest model looks more modern. These upgrades feel like improvements, but in reality, they are often wealth destruction disguised as progress. Minimalists follow a very strict rule: never replace something that still works. A phone that makes calls, sends messages, and runs your apps is still doing its job. A car that reliably takes you where you need to go is still functioning. A couch that's comfortable and intact doesn't suddenly become useless just because a new design exists. Think about how often people upgrade their phones. The average American replaces their phone every 2 to 3 years, even when the old phone still works perfectly. Over 30 years, that habit alone can cost $30,000 to $50,000. Now apply that same behavior to other things: cars, furniture, electronics, appliances. Over a lifetime, unnecessary upgrades can easily waste over $200,000, all because people confuse novelty with necessity. Minimalists define something very clearly: an item should only be replaced when it actually fails. Not when you're bored, not when a newer version appears, not when advertising convinces you that you're missing out, only when the item can no longer perform the job it was meant to do. Everything else is simply marketing convincing you to solve problems you never had. But there's another rule that makes minimalist finances even more powerful. Instead of relying on discipline, minimalists design their lives so that saving becomes automatic. And that's where the next rule comes in. Part 6. Rule 4. Make saving easy and spending. Hard human behavior follows a simple rule. We usually choose the path of least resistance. If spending money is easy and saving money is difficult, most people will naturally spend. But if saving becomes easy and spending becomes harder, the opposite happens. Minimalists understand this. So instead of relying on willpower, they design systems that guide their behavior. First, they create friction for spending. That might mean deleting shopping apps from their phone, removing stored credit card numbers from online stores, unsubscribing from promotional emails, or adding a simple rule: wait 24 hours before buying anything non-essential. That small delay alone can eliminate a huge number of impulse purchases. Because most buying decisions are emotional, and emotions fade quickly, often within a single day. At the same time, minimalists make saving automatic. Money moves into savings or investments before they even see it. Automatic transfers happen on payday. Investment contributions are scheduled every month. Savings become a fixed expense, just like rent or utilities. This system removes the need for constant discipline. Because discipline fades, people get tired, they get stressed, they make impulsive decisions. But a well-designed system keeps working quietly in the background. Minimalists don't assume they'll always make perfect financial choices. Instead, they build an environment where good decisions happen automatically. And over time, this creates a powerful effect. Money accumulates almost without effort, while unnecessary spending slowly disappears. But minimalists also do something else that most people never try. They regularly measure something that completely changes how they see their lifestyle. And that leads to the next rule. Part 7. Rule 5. Count what you own. This rule sounds strange at first. Minimalists sometimes count their possessions. Not obsessively, but intentionally. Because counting creates something powerful: awareness. And awareness changes behavior. Pick a category in your home: clothing, shoes, kitchen gadgets. Now ask yourself a simple question: how many do you think you own? Most people underestimate. They guess 10, and discover they actually have 30. They guess 20, and find 60. Once you see the real number, something shifts. Buying another item no longer feels small. You're not just buying another shirt. You're bringing your collection to 48 shirts, and suddenly that purchase feels very different. Minimalists often set simple limits. For example, maybe 30 pieces of clothing, maybe 1 in, 1 out rules. If a new item enters the home, something else must leave. These small boundaries prevent lifestyle creep, because without limits, possessions naturally expand to fill every available space. Closets get fuller. Garages get crowded. Storage units appear, and the cycle continues. But minimalists break that cycle because every new item forces a decision. Is this actually worth replacing something I already own? And most of the time, the answer is no. But there's another habit that protects minimalists from wasting huge amounts of money. Before buying expensive things, they follow one more rule. And this rule prevents garages from turning into museums of abandoned hobbies. Part 8. Rule 6. Rent or borrow. Before you buy many purchases, follow the same pattern. At first, there is excitement, a new hobby, a new interest, a new idea about who we want to become. So people immediately buy the equipment: camping gear, photography equipment, musical instruments, kayaks, woodworking tools. For a few weeks, everything feels exciting, but then something happens. The enthusiasm fades, the hobby becomes occasional, and eventually the equipment ends up sitting quietly in a closet, garage, or storage room. Minimalists avoid this trap with a simple strategy: rent or borrow before buying. Want to try camping? Rent the gear for the first few trips. Interested in photography? Borrow a camera or use rental equipment. Thinking about kayaking? Rent one several times first. This approach does two important things. First, it reveals whether your interest is real or temporary. Many hobbies feel exciting at first but fade quickly. It's much better to discover that while renting rather than after spending thousands of dollars. Second, it helps you learn what you actually need. Beginners often buy the wrong equipment, too much gear, or gear that doesn't fit their real needs. Renting first allows you to experiment and learn before making a permanent purchase. Across the country, garages are filled with reminders of temporary enthusiasm. Unused ski equipment, photography gear from a hobby that lasted 2 months, exercise machines that became clothes racks. Minimalists avoid turning their homes into museums of past interests. They explore new experiences, but they avoid locking money into possessions that may not last. But there is another financial trap that catches people all the time. One purchase quietly leads to many more purchases, and most people never see it coming. Part 9. Rule 7. Understand the lifestyle multiplier. Many purchases don't exist alone. They create a chain reaction of new expenses. Minimalists call this the lifestyle multiplier, because one item often pulls an entire ecosystem of spending along with it. Take something simple like a boat. Buying the boat is only the beginning. Soon you also need a trailer, a vehicle capable of towing it, storage space, insurance, safety equipment, maintenance supplies. The original purchase quietly multiplies into a long list of ongoing costs, and suddenly that $30,000 purchase becomes far more expensive than it first appeared. The same pattern appears everywhere. A home gym may require flooring, mirrors, storage racks, and renovations. A swimming pool requires chemicals, cleaning equipment, furniture, and constant maintenance. A motorcycle requires protective gear, maintenance tools, and sometimes even a truck or trailer. The true cost is rarely just the item itself. It's the entire network of expenses surrounding it. Minimalists always calculate this full ecosystem cost before buying anything major, because a purchase that looks like $5,000 may actually become $10,000 or more over time, but the multiplier works in reverse too. When you remove one large possession, you often eliminate many related expenses. Selling the boat also removes storage fees, insurance, registration, maintenance costs. One decision can remove an entire category of spending, but perhaps the most important rule of all comes before any of this. It's the rule that protects people from endless lifestyle inflation, and without it, even very high incomes can disappear. Part 10. Rule 8. Define what enough means. One of the biggest financial traps is surprisingly simple. Most people never define what enough looks like, so their lifestyle keeps expanding. Income increases, and spending increases with it. A bigger house, a nicer car, more expensive vacations, better gadgets. And every time income grows, the lifestyle grows right alongside it. The result? Even people earning $200,000 or $300,000 a year can feel financially stressed. because their expenses have grown to match their income. Minimalists avoid this trap by doing something different. They decide what enough means before their income grows. They define what kind of home is sufficient, what kind of car meets their needs, what level of material comfort is actually enough for a satisfying life. Once that definition exists, something powerful happens. When income increases, the extra money doesn't go toward lifestyle upgrades, it goes towards saving and investing. Imagine someone who decides that $60,000 per year is enough to live comfortably. Later, their career grows and they begin earning $150,000 per year. Instead of increasing their spending, they keep their lifestyle the same. That extra $90,000 per year becomes fuel for financial freedom. Over time, this difference becomes enormous. The person who defines enough builds wealth rapidly. The person who constantly upgrades their lifestyle often saves almost nothing, even with the same income. This idea leads to a completely different way of thinking about wealth. Most people measure wealth by what they own. Minimalists measure wealth by something else entirely. And that leads to the next rule. Part 11. Rule 9. Measure wealth by freedom, not possessions. Most people measure wealth by what they own. A bigger house, a luxury car, expensive furniture, the visible signs of success. But minimalists measure wealth in a completely different way. They measure wealth by freedom, or more specifically, optionality. Optionality means having choices. Can you leave a job that is damaging your mental health? Can you take several months off if a family emergency happens? Can you move to a different city for a new opportunity? Can you start a business even if income is uncertain? Can you retire earlier than most people? These choices represent real wealth, and they only exist when there is a large gap between your income and your expenses. Think about two different people. The first person earns $200,000 per year but spends $195,000. On paper, that looks like a successful life. But in reality, they have almost no flexibility. They depend completely on that income. Their lifestyle has become a financial trap. The second person earns $80,000 per year but spends only $45,000. Their income is lower, but their freedom is much greater. They have savings, they have flexibility, they can survive disruptions, they can take risks, they can make decisions based on what they want, not what they must do. Minimalists understand something powerful. Every purchase is not just buying an object, it is also trading away a small piece of future freedom. The money tied up in things you don't need is money that cannot help you when life changes. The larger the gap between income and spending, the greater your freedom becomes. But maintaining this lifestyle requires one final habit. Because without it, possessions slowly start creeping back into your life. And that brings us to the final rule. Part 12. Rule 10. Practice cyclical decluttering. Many people try minimalism the wrong way. They do one massive clean-out, a full weekend of throwing things away, closets emptied, garages reorganized, boxes donated. For a few weeks, everything feels amazing. The house feels lighter, life feels simpler. But then something subtle happens. New things slowly start entering the house again. A small purchase here, another item there. 6 months later, the clutter quietly returns. Within 2 years, many people end up exactly where they started. Minimalists avoid this trap by using something different. Cyclical decluttering. Instead of one huge purge, they do small reviews regularly. A quick look at new items every week. A review of one category each month. A broader look at overall possessions every few months. Small actions, repeated consistently. Removing 3 items per week feels easy. Removing 300 items in one weekend feels overwhelming. And when something feels overwhelming, people usually avoid doing it. The cyclical method does something even more powerful. It keeps you aware. You begin to notice patterns. Which types of items you tend to accumulate. When you're most likely to buy things impulsively. Which marketing tactics influence you the most. This awareness helps you stop the problem before it grows. not just clean it up afterward. And when you apply all of these rules together, something interesting happens. Your financial life begins to change in a quiet but powerful way. You spend less without feeling deprived. You save more without constant effort. And over time, a gap begins to grow between what you earn and what you spend. That gap becomes wealth. Here's the truth most people never hear. Minimalism and money work in both directions. Owning less helps you build financial security. But financial security also makes owning less feel natural. When your savings are strong, when your investments are growing, you no longer need possessions to feel successful. Your bank account already gives you that confidence, and this creates a powerful cycle. Spending less leads to saving more. Saving more creates security. Security reduces the emotional urge to spend, which leads to even more saving. Over time, this cycle builds something far more valuable than possessions. Peace of mind. Remember the 2 apartments we started with? The one filled with expensive things but financial stress, and the other filled with simplicity but financial security. Both lifestyles are available to you, regardless of how much you earn. The difference is simply whether you want to own your possessions or allow your possessions to own you. And when you look at the numbers, the choice becomes very clear.